Welcome into the Solo Shot Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Dom Manna. Happy Solo Shot Saturday, everyone. And it is not just a Solo Shot Saturday to be happy about, but the long-awaited and expected debut of Pirates top prospect Paul Skenes is making his Major League debut today. So definitely make sure that you don't miss out on that. This is the most hyped pitching performance debut since Steven Strasburg. I know that there's been some arguments that Shohei's pitching debut might have been a little bit more exciting for Yamamoto's this year. But to me, in terms of a pitching prospect who was just supposed to change life, he is the next guy since Steven Strasburg. And it's pretty easy to make that comparison, not just because they're both the number one overall pick in the Major League Baseball draft, a college prospect that just threw absolute heat. Paul Skenes has been throwing over 100 miles per hour consistently since he came to pro ball. And it's been very difficult for people to hit. People were driving out to watch his AAA starts. That's how can't miss he has been. And I just have to say, it is really, really exciting to me that the Pirates, a team that is trying to take that next step, has this kind of excitement rolling into a Saturday game. Absolutely exciting to watch him square off against Justin Steele and the Cubs at 4:05 Eastern. So that'll be 3:05 Central Time. So right in the middle of your day, you won't have to stay up for it. And I'm just really excited to see what this kid does. Obviously, the expectations are high. I don't know if he'll strike out 14 like Steven Strasburg, dazzle. He's going to show promise. And even if that and that's all you can really ask for, especially with the amount of stud pitchers that we are. All right. So all the stud pitchers that are currently having injuries and things that are going wrong here. All right. So I'm getting a notification that we might be having trouble streaming on YouTube. So I'm going to just make sure that the stream is coming through on YouTube's end. And as long as I can see it, I'm going to continue going with where I'm at. All right. Yeah, there just might be a little bit of a delay. So we are on. Sorry for any difficulties on their end. So we are live now. It's all good, all green. And yeah, Paul Skenes is much needed because there have been so many people that have been hurt since the start of the pitch clock era. So many stud pitchers have been out for big chunks of the season or full seasons. So to have a guy like Paul Skenes, who is supposed to be the next big ace in baseball, coming up to the major leagues is extremely exciting. This is a guy who right up there with Jared Jones in that Pirates rotation should be the future of the team. And a lot of people think that Paul Skenes and Jared Jones could anchor the next postseason rotation for the Buccos. But the thing that keeps getting brought up a lot about Paul Skenes' debut is the fact that he dates social media superstar Livy Dunn, who obviously is a very talented gymnast herself, but she has a social media following that is really, really crazy, especially in the baseball world. And they kind of lined up this debut where her season has ended so she can be in attendance for the game. And a lot of people have likened this to Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. I don't think that it's necessarily that big nationally and globally as a Hall of Fame football player and a megastar musician like Taylor Swift. But there is a pocket of young people who aren't interested in the game of baseball right now, that this connection of Livy Dunn going to baseball games to watch her man, who is an absolute stud and throws over 100 miles per hour, which seems to get a lot of the baseball world excited. I think it's a nice opportunity for baseball to maybe capture a new audience. And I'm excited to see if there's any kind of bump from Livy Dunn's content that she does around this debut, especially if Paul Skenes deals in the way that he has the potential to. I'm very excited to see what this game and this relationship makes in the baseball world. It could be nothing. We could just be getting another stud pitcher, and him and Livy Dunn break up, and that doesn't end up capturing a big enough audience. But who knows? There's a lot of Swifties that started watching the NFL that I think even if Taylor Swift didn't marry Travis Kelce, would continue to watch the NFL because they actually started having a good time buying a football jersey and watching football on Sundays. So hopefully there will be some sort of transition there with the baseball community. And I'm just absolutely thrilled to have Paul Skenes finally in the major leagues. I don't know what else he had to prove down in the minors. He was blowing the ball by guys, amazing stuff. And truly a can't miss start today. Yes, again at 4:05 Eastern Standard Time against Justin Steele and the Cubs. Now, there's been a lot of talk in the streets about the Houston Astros. Justin Verlander just got creamed by the Yankees the other night. And the Astros, I've tried to say that I'm not too worried about them. I do think that they, as bad as they've been, the Angels have fallen into last place. They've gotten ahead of the Angels, and I do know that over the course of the season, the Athletics will fall below them as well. If they keep playing this way, it's going to be hard to catch the Mariners and the Rangers in that division race, but I do think that they have much better days ahead of them. But a Houston Astro player, because of the performance, has really flown under the radar. And I feel like he does this because of the way he plays. He's not a super exciting player. He is not a super explosive player. But Kyle Tucker of the Houston Astros has been on an absolute tear. As you can see, we're up to 661 solo shots. A good chunk of them have been from Kyle Tucker. And I just want to highlight Kyle Tucker for a moment because I feel like he's not getting talked about as the Astros have not been winning games and as it's been really negative. So I want to put a positive spin on things. Kyle Tucker is one of baseball's truly underrated superstars. And since the month of May started, he's played in 10 games and he's hit 5 home runs. And if you take it back to the end of April, in his last 13 games, he has 7 home runs. He is hitting the piss out of the ball, and he is a truly superstar level baseball player, one of 9 players in the major leagues so far with over 2 wins above replacement. He's someone that plays gold glove defense in the outfield, someone who hits for a decent average, 270, and has pop. 12 home runs, which is right up there in the major league lead. And I feel like he's not being talked about enough because of the Astros being below expectations. And I just think that's playing out wrong because they're not going to be behind the A's all season long unless their whole team blows up health-wise. And they're going to, I think, at least be contending for second place in the division with the Mariners when it's all said and done. Because I think the Mariners are off to a little bit better of a start than I was expecting. And the Astros are off to a little bit worse of a start than I was expecting. So don't worry too much about the Astros. Ignore the noise for now. They have a ton of talent on this roster. And while Jose Altuve is a Hall of Famer, Yordan Alvarez's home runs get people excited. Kyle Tucker is the hottest bat in that lineup right now. And if you can tune in to his at-bats right now, I would highly recommend it. There's a good chance he's going to send the ball a long way. And it is just awesome that he is one of these guys that doesn't get talked about enough because Houston is that deep talent-wise. When you have Jose Altuve and Alex Bregman and Yordan Alvarez, guys like Kyle Tucker fall through the cracks when if Kyle Tucker was on the A's or the Mariners, he would be right up there for their best player, if not their best. So putting some respect on Kyle Tucker's name, and I hope you guys pay a little more attention to what he's doing right now instead of the negative noise around the Astros. It's not looking good for them, but there are better days ahead, and Kyle Tucker is one of the biggest reasons why. Now, there was a pretty amazing series this past weekend. It wasn't amazing for Braves fans, and I know a few of them pop in here through the chat. Uh, the Dodgers swept the Braves, and I know that this was a very anticipated series. These were arguably the two best teams in baseball coming into the season, top to bottom, just talent and ability to win games. But the Dodgers didn't just sweep the Braves, they dominated the Braves. And Shohei Ohtani, who we talked about, will he get MVP votes as a DH, serious MVP votes? Put a really nice performance together in that series, 8 hits, a guy who slugged an OPS of over 2,000 in the series against the Braves. He's stealing bases. He's hitting 364, and he still has Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman and Max Muncy all hitting behind him. It's just truly amazing to watch this Dodgers team right now. And while I don't think that they're going to dominate all the way to the World Series, the fact that they made the Braves look the way they did, I am just extremely excited to tune into as many Dodgers broadcasts as I can. I know there's a lot of late games, but when you have a lineup of Betts, Freeman, and Ohtani, it is just can't miss baseball for me. The fact that we get to live in the era and see that kind of lineup, and the fact that they're going to be together for the next 4 or 5 years at the minimum, based off Freddie Freeman's age and contract, it is very exciting. And Braves fans, your team is still very good at baseball, but the Dodgers coming into town and taking care of business like that, it should scare you. And I do think that going forward, the Dodgers are going to be favored in pretty much every single series they play going forward if they can do this to the Braves. Baseball will and can happen, but the Dodgers have just been absolutely disgusting. Tyler Glasnow leads the league in strikeouts as well. He's been healthy. This Dodgers team is a video game lineup, top to bottom, the depth, the talent, the stuff. Truly, truly amazing. And this is the time where we throw it back down the third base line to this day in baseball history. And there were a ton of awesome pitching performances and streaks that started and ended actually on May 11th in baseball history. But there was one perfect pitching performance, and that was from the left arm of God himself, Mr. Sanford Koufax. Yes, Sandy Koufax threw his second career no-hitter on this day in 1963. And it shouldn't be too shocking to people that have an idea of Sandy Koufax's career that he threw a no-hitter. Yeah, he was dominant, especially in those 60s years. But when you look at the lineup that he faced in 1963, it becomes that much more impressive. Now, the last out of this perfect game was former Tigers all-star Harvey Keene, who went 0 for 4 in the game. Did not strike out once. But he did have 0 hits and looked real bad. Now, this lineup had Hall of Famers Willie Mays and Orlando Cepeda, as well as Juan Marichal, who was matched up against him on the mound. And even Willie McCovey, Hall of Famer, pinch hit later in this game and was not able to reach base. The only base runners for this game was Ed Bailey, the catcher for the Giants. So one walk away from perfection in a lineup that technically had 4 Hall of Famers. I know Juan Marichal wasn't necessarily a slugger, but Sandy Koufax took care of business on this day and just was super efficient with his pitches. And I don't think people give Sandy Koufax quite enough credit for how dominant he was in that 6-year stretch. It's truly why he's in the Baseball Hall of Fame, and why, despite the very short career for a pitcher, has nearly 50 WAR, has 165 wins, has an MVP, 3 Cy Youngs, 3 Triple Crowns, is a 7-time All-Star, 4-time World Series champ, 5 ERA titles, and 2 World Series MVPs to boast. He was truly dominant. And thinking about just sitting back on a spring day in 1963, and you get to watch 2 Hall of Famers match up, Juan Marichal and Sandy Koufax, and get a lineup where you're like, oh, okay, so he has to go through Willie Mays and Orlando Cepeda, and Sandy Koufax does not allow them to reach base. That is greatness. And I don't care where guys were hitting at the time. It is truly impressive, no matter the era. A lineup with 4 Hall of Famers who bat and not allowing a hit. That is amazing. That is, like we just talked about, if the Dodgers get no hit this season, it would be a similar type of feat. So really amazing performance by Sandy Koufax on this day. It was his second career no-hitter. He threw 4, which was the record until Nolan Ryan demolished that record with his 7 career no-hitters. But Sandy Koufax on this day no-hit the Hall of Fame loaded Giants in May 11th, 1963. And I could not give the honor to anyone else. Now, we're at the point of the season where we have a sample size. It might not be the best sample size, but there is one. And we're going to have to start making opinions. Some of them are going to be right. Some of them are going to be wrong. Just from my prediction show at the beginning of the year before the season started, I have some things that are looking really good, and I have some things that are not looking so hot, like Spencer Strider, who's not going to pitch the rest of the year, being my NL Cy Young pick. But when you look at the pure standings in baseball, there are 3 teams that really stand out to me as bad. And that is the Chicago White Sox, the Miami Marlins, and the Colorado Rockies. And I know we like to say everybody's in it at the beginning of the season, and it's only May 11th. But I am buying that the season, 2024 season, is over for the Miami Marlins, for the Chicago White Sox, and for the Colorado Rockies, who I sneakily said might be the worst team in baseball this year, and they're right on pace to be. Those 3 teams have no hope. Garrett Crochet has been a very nice surprise for the White Sox, but he's can only pitch once every 5 days, and he's not getting the constant run support needed to be a true ace. The Miami Marlins traded Luis Ariz, have a ton of injuries to the pitching staff. Jake Berger's still on his way back. There's not a lot of hope there in the NL East when you have the Braves, who are in juggernaut, and the Phillies, who are ahead of them right now. And then the Colorado Rockies. You're playing in the division with the Los Angeles Dodgers, with the improved Padres, Diamondbacks, and Giants all ahead of you. It was an uphill battle to begin the season from game 1. And the fact that you've fallen to 15 games back from the Dodgers this early, I don't see a world where the Rockies make a significant comeback in the standings. It will be amazing if they finish in 4th place in their division. So I'm buying that the season is already over for those 3 teams that are in the bottom of the standings. But like I hinted at before, I am not buying that the Astros are dust. I am not buying that they are done. A lot of people are making comparisons to the Cardinals last season when they kind of just fell off the map and just started not playing well, not winning games, having stretches, but not consistently being a competent team. I think the Houston Astros are going to make a comeback in the AL West. It may not be good enough to win the division. In fact, I did not pick them to win the division. I actually picked the Rangers to beat them out this year, but I think they have a chance to be in that wildcard conversation and get back on track. They are just too talented top to bottom. Their pitching staff is the worst it's been in a while, and they desperately need Framber Valdez back from the IL, but this Astros team is uber talented, and I am just super excited. Now, we talked about Tyler Glasnow leading the league in strikeouts. Buy or sell, we get a healthy Tyler Glasnow for the entire season. And I'm going to sell it. This is something that I hope doesn't happen. I never wish injuries upon people, but his career high for innings pitched is 120. Now, you could argue that 150 innings of Tyler Glasnow is amazing, and I would love to see it, but I haven't seen it yet. And until I do, I cannot bet on him being as efficient, as just unhittable as he's been for a full season. To right now, he's looking like the National League favorite for Cy Young votes. I don't think he's going to be on the mound long enough to really be that favorite. And the final buy or sell that I have is one that is a little bit closer to home, and that is the AL Central. Am I buying the just flat out improvement from the other four teams? Cleveland, 24-15, Minnesota Twins, 23-15, Kansas City Royals, 24-16, and even the Tigers are playing 500 baseball right now, with that being their division. Riley Green's been a monster for the Tigers. The Royals have a ton of young players, and they spent this offseason to just raise the floor of their team. The Minnesota Twins, I talked about it. They had the true best pitching staff and a lot of homegrown hitters. And Cleveland has been a really pleasant surprise, even without the Shane Bieber injury. If Shane Bieber was still with them, they might be the first team in baseball to 30 wins. But they're playing really good baseball. And I don't want to get sucked into a small sample size, but I am buying that the AL Central is significantly improved from 2023 to 2024. I still believe the Minnesota Twins, after a slow start, they've been bouncing back. I know Scott in the chat is super excited about that. But the Minnesota Twins are still my pick to win the division. I know it's not looking like any team can keep up with Cleveland, but I do think that Minnesota will win the division at the end of the day, barring health. Kansas City, Detroit, and Cleveland all look improved from last year, and I think that they're going to be not just in this division race, but I could see one of these other teams winning a wild card spot in the AL as well, which you never would have guessed with how loaded the AL East is with talent, and with the top three teams in the AL West all looking like playoff potentials as well. There may just be two playoff teams from the AL Central, and I am buying their early season success. Thank you for spending part of your Saturday with me. For those of you that listen to the recording, I appreciate you as well. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share with a friend who enjoys baseball just like us. I will catch you guys next Solo Shot Saturday. Everyone have a good one. Happy Skenes Day.